Good morning. It's Friday, November the 13th, and this is The Drill. Thank you very much for all of those of you out there that are superstitious on Friday the 13th. Good luck. The prayer of the day comes from dailyscripture.net. Lord Jesus Christ, I place all my hope in you because you have redeemed the world by your death on the cross and by your victory over the grave. Help me to never lose sight of the goal of heaven, that I may live each day in joyful anticipation of your return in glory. Amen. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host and the only true conservative in the United States today. Who is the true conservative? First and foremost, he's realistic. Secondly, he is monotheistic. He's the person that has the courage of his convictions and is confident in what he knows. He is the person that subordinates politics to reality. He's not selfish, but minds his own business. He acts like an adult. He's patriotic and uses common sense. He's judgmental and moralizes. He refuses to speculate, speaks clearly and definitively, and is not afraid to say no. He is open-minded, asking why rather than why not. He is consistent, credible, and influential. Not ashamed of his existence, unafraid to learn or correct his mistakes. He is a normal American, and he's better than the socialist. He's a better friend, father, brother, family member, and a better person, period. You have to know that being a true conservative is best, or you're wasting your time. Additional examples of what it means to be a true conservative, or at least how to communicate like a true conservative, can be heard by listening to John Cobelt and Ken Champeau on The John and Ken Show on KFI AM 640, Monday through Friday from 2 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. My podcast is short, approximately 5 to 20 minutes long, because shorter podcasts are easier to download and listen to. The biggest socio-political influences in my life are my parents, my teachers, Sir Francis Bacon, John Locke, Sir Isaac Newton, Ayn Rand, and Dr. Mortimer Adler. My podcast is made available through Spreaker and can be heard on iTunes, Spotify, Google, and YouTube. Today, where do we stand? The Four Commandments, Quote of the Day, How to Win, Conservative Vocabulary, Donald Trump Unchained, Conservative Aphorisms, and Socialist Vocabulary. All that when I come back. The biggest problem with the news, besides undeclared bias, is the lack of continuity. I decided to take the issues facing the country and report on them daily until the story is complete. Hence, where do we stand? Donald J. Trump is still President of the United States. We, Republicans, have a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court. Republicans have gained at least 8 seats in the House of Representatives. The Senate is currently 50-48 in favor of the Republicans, with 2 races outstanding. Republicans have 27 governorships to the Democrats' 23. Republicans control 55 of 99 state legislative chambers. President Trump has filed lawsuits in several states alleging voter fraud, and Attorney General Barr has authorized an investigation into said voter fraud. Not my president-elect, Biden, continues to pimp about, pretending to be somebody. No news on the monster that has been arraigned for shooting 2 Los Angeles sheriff's deputies. George Soros still isn't dead yet. No law enforcement union has yet been decertified, and no laws shielding officers from prosecution have yet been repealed. The so-called Patriot Act is still the law of the land. New York Times v. Sullivan continues to encourage news people to be super citizens who can use unnamed sources to slander and defame people at will without fear of consequences. Where's the expose on the Washington Press Corps? Where's nonprofit news? The communist flu continues. Blue Cross and Kaiser Permanente continue to take our premiums while they avoid paying claims. Governor Newsom has enacted a racist scheme to keep Californians locked down indefinitely. When I come back, conservative vocabulary. Thank you, thank you. There's more to being a true conservative than how you vote. If you want to be a true conservative, you have to act, think, and talk like a true conservative. Hence, conservative vocabulary. Words like no, go back, acceptance, mind your own business, right, wrong, should, good, bad, evil, reality, certainty, morality, beauty, and polity. These are terms that the left doesn't want to use because they are realistic. So, let's see. How to win. Follow the conservative commandments, number 1. Number 1, thou shalt not answer stupid questions. Number 2, thou shalt not be pragmatic. Number 3, thou shalt not be idealistic. And number 4, thou shalt not subscribe to the cult of expertise or the cult of neutrality. Nancy Pelosi's refused to negotiate in good faith regarding the second stimulus because it denies money to Republicans. Republican support is grassroots, and Democrat support is from tech billionaires and George Soros. You should get in contact as often as possible with your elected representatives and demand that they provide a stimulus. You're going to lock us down, deny us the ability to earn a living, and then not provide us any income in the meantime. That's just wrong. Okay, so get in contact with your representatives and demand, tweet them, and demand that they come up with a stimulus package now. And there will be calls from Old Joe and others to move on. The first thing to do is ask yourself, what is he trying to do? Not what is he trying to say. When you discover that he is trying to demoralize and discourage you, you will be able to appropriately respond to this appropriately. In this case, with defiance. And the appropriate response would be, yes, we will move on to a second Trump term. You'll also be told about Old Joe's plans for the future, about who he plans to put in various cabinet posts, about what executive orders he will write. Again, what is he doing rather than what is he saying? Makes you realize that he's trying to make you think that his inauguration is inevitable. When you know this, you can respond appropriately, defiantly, and say, really? And how does he plan to do that from his basement in Delaware? The quote of the day, quote, freedom is the emancipation from the arbitrary rule of other men, unquote. Dr. Mortimer Adler. As conservatives, we make the presumption for the status quo and change only when there's an obvious or prima facie case for change. However, many of the changes that our civilization has seen are not necessary but gratuitous. And so a lot of good ideas have been put by the wayside because of that. And the following are concepts and abstractions that should be brought back. Sanity, privacy, property rights, the pre-1970 filibuster, outlawry, single-income households, integration, parenting, and along with it, corporal punishment, the primacy of existence, certainty of knowledge, and universal rights and wrongs. Bring back principled behavior, masculinity and femininity, Adam 12, John F. Kennedy, the gold standard, pre-HMO medical care, nonprofit news, civil service, the term stupid question, arguments and fights, the cultural influence of the church and the Boy Scouts. Bring back the Lions Club and the Rotary Club. Bring back bowling. Bring back linear thinking. Bring back smart. And next up, we're going to have right or wrong. Thank you. Excuse me, right or wrong. So there's a very good article in the latest issue of the American Conservative that I wanted to read, and it is called Trump Unbound. I called it erroneously Trump Unchained. Trump Unbound, The Potentials of a Second Term, and it's by William S. Lind. I expect President Trump to win re-election and win big. In a game of cops and robbers, most people side with the cops. A triumphant Trump will be Trump unbound, Promethean in his defiance of the establishment. The result should be more fun than a barrel of Menkins. What outrages might he inflict? Some interesting possibilities. In a repeat of Nixon going to China, Trump goes to Moscow. Nixon countered the Soviet threat not by shoveling endless money into the Pentagon's maw, but by a brilliant grand strategic maneuver, convincing China to align with the United States against Moscow. That move also nullified our defeat in Vietnam by eliminating its strategic significance. Not entirely wisely, President Trump will likely up the ante in his confrontation with China. Could he convince Russia to de-align with Beijing and join us in containing China? America's foolish continuation of an anti-Russian policy after communism fell has pushed Russia and China together. But Moscow fears long-term Chinese ambitions in Siberia. If President Trump wants leverage on China, nothing would give him more than facing Beijing with a land threat along its vast northern border. President Trump will remain pro-military, but that does not mean he loves the top brass. He knows they hold him in contempt as a person, and they also continue to block his desire to bring the boys home. Were he to adopt a policy of military reform, the agenda for which was laid out in the 1980s and remains relevant, he would give the brass fits while saving money and improving our ability to win wars, something in short supply of late. President Trump won election and re-election in part by defying cultural Marxism, aka political correctness. Now he could launch a full-fledged crusade against it. Most people are fed up with PC, with children telling adults what words they may or may not use and thoughts they may or may not think. The president began a counteroffensive in his first term. In March, he announced that colleges and universities that failed to protect freedom of thought and expression would lose all federal funding, including research grants. He subsequently ordered an end to all federally mandated anti-racism training, which conditions people to mouth cultural Marxism's lies. Any dissent from that ideology is deemed racist. Triumphant and unchained, he could do more. Most public schools are now Skinner boxes, conditioning children to be good little cultural Komsomol members. A broad offensive to restore the teaching of skills and facts. He could call it Schools 1950, and it would be welcomed by most parents. In the workplace, anyone who contradicts cultural Marxism now stands in peril of losing his job. President Trump could announce that freedom of thought and speech must be respected by any business receiving federal funds. He could order that in all federal offices, including the military, any man accused of sexual harassment must be presumed innocent until proven guilty. The opposite is now the case. And revise what sexual harassment means to exclude normal banter between men and women. A re-elected President Trump could make powerful use of the bully pulpit to fight cancel culture. The culture Marxists now cancel anyone who disagrees with them. The cultural Marxists, now cancel anyone who disagrees with them, as in the old Soviet Union. Those people become unpersons. Their jobs, careers, social ties, and even physical safety are threatened unless they apologize, groveling in the dirt before the great clay god PC. President Trump could break this by meting out the same treatment to all cultural Marxists themselves. He could organize boycotts of companies that practice cancellation, deny all federal contracts to the same, launch antitrust actions against electronic media that cancel conservative voices, and use the White House to give visibility to people the left has canceled. He could order all federal departments to cease doing business with any entity that uses the vocabulary of cultural Marxism, diversity, privilege, microaggressions, etc. And President Trump could disestablish the deep state itself. How? By calling a constitutional convention with the intent of abolishing most amendments passed since 1860. That would transfer back to the individual states the powers the federal government has usurped in the intervening 160 years. Its functions gone, how would the deep state justify itself and its vast budget? The fleas would have lost their dog. Here's a cherry on top. A triumphant Trump pushes through a tax of $1 on every robocall to be paid by the phone company that delivers the call. The robo-plague ends overnight, and huzzah for the president resounds from Boston Harbor to the Golden Gate Bridge. And that's the conclusion of President Trump Unbound by William S. Lind, and he is the author, along with Lieutenant Colonel Gregory Thiel, of the Fourth Generation Warfare Handbook. Lind's most recent book is Retroculture, Taking America Back. And I happen to have that book and am in the process of reading it. So, as far as right or wrong, it is an excellent article because really, right or wrong, I mean, there's a little bit of, it's somewhat predictory. You know, you're predicting a win and what it is that the president will do or should do during his next term. Mainly should do, which is what you want to do. But it's also a boost psychologically, okay? And well worth reading for that reason. The left loves to use psychology against you. Use it as a weapon. Try to convince you that Donald Trump is gone, so you may as well just get used to the idea of good old Uncle Joe being the president of the United States for the next 4 years. And this is an article that says, that defies that. So, excuse me. Let's get back on track here. So, let's see where we at here. Oh, be of good cheer. The universe is benevolent, and success is to be expected. Therefore, the left has no authority, no power, and they cannot win. Think about it. Conservative aphorisms. These are things that I think would make excellent bumper stickers. Words and phrases. Why? Who asked you? Who cares? Who is we? Are you sure? How do you know? No, you don't understand. No, you are not listening. You're right. I don't care. No, you're not a leader or a change agent. Who died and left you in charge? Who told you that? And my personal favorite, get off my lawn. Up next, socialist vocabulary. Thank you. Since nobody wears uniforms, how do you identify the socialists around you? By their vocabulary, by how they speak. Socialist vocabulary includes such words as stakeholders, Latinx, empower, going forward, mansplaining, politically correct, supportive, hegemony, organic, grassroots, code word, dog whistle, buy-in, pushback, and the masses. The ICE tip line is 866-347-2423. Back in a minute. Who is the socialist? He's the man that seeks consensus rather than develop his own opinions. He's subjective, petty, and small, taking everything in life personally. He's outrageous, boring, and rude. He pretends to be a leader and a change agent. He's manipulative. He's sly, cunning, and deceptive. He dresses, acts, and speaks like a slob. He's informal and terminally unique. He is childish and pretends that he knows nothing. He's pragmatic and ignores his conscience. He acts randomly and rationalizes his behavior. Deterministic, blaming others for his mistakes. Skeptical, demanding that others solve his problems. His unreasonableness and irresponsibility make him a bad role model and a bad father, brother, family member, friend, and a bad person, period. So if you think that you should be friends with a socialist, think again. That concludes another episode of The Drill. Be honest, be smart, be beautiful, and always ask yourself, What is real? How do I know? And what should I do about it? I'm Ron, and that's the drill.